Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to explore a really profoundly liberating concept. If you've ever felt just completely overwhelmed by anxiety, stress, or honestly just the heavy weight of daily life, you've probably caught yourself thinking, man, I just need to find some peace. But what if the peace you're looking for isn't actually something you have to hunt down and acquire? Today, we're diving into a massive shift in perspective. We're moving away from that exhausting pursuit of trying to grab peace from the outside world, and instead, we're going to learn how to uncover the profound peace that is already sitting right inside you.
So think about this. Are you born calm, or do you practice it? A lot of us kind of just operate under the assumption that mental wellness is a lucky genetic trait. We look around and think some people just got the naturally calm wiring, while the rest of us, well, we're permanently stuck getting hot, fritzy, and anxious the second we're put under stress. And honestly, this specific way of thinking is exactly what creates so much of the stigma around mental wellness. It makes people avoid the exact tools that could help them because they just think, well, that's just how I'm built, nothing I can do.
All right, so let's jump into Section 1, the mental wellness myth. We really need to totally dismantle this widespread idea that mental health is just this innate characteristic you either possess or you don't. Think about it like this. We all universally agree that physical health requires continuous effort, right? Nobody expects to have great physical wellness without eating right, sleeping, or moving their body. We don't expect six-pack abs just by staring at the outside of a gym. But for some weird reason, we expect our minds to just naturally take care of themselves. The absolute truth is, our minds are exactly the same as our bodies. They require regular, intentional mental hygiene to stay balanced. Things like mindfulness, meditation, chanting, or simply sitting quietly with your breath, these aren't just, emergency tools for other people. They are literally the daily workouts for your own mind. And just like physical exercise, you can't just think your way into it. You could read every book ever written about swimming, but eventually, if you want to swim, you gotta get in the water. The author of our source text recalls a high school soccer coach who completely dismissed the idea of innate talent. This coach insisted that mastery simply comes down to touches on the ball. You just don't get good at anything without doing it over and over again. Mental resilience is the exact same way. It requires those daily touches on the ball. That brings us to Section 2, the lamp and the soot. Let's dive into a truly brilliant metaphor from Buddhist philosophy that's going to completely change how you view your own suffering.
Buddhism diagnoses our suffering with a very specific word, dukkha. But it is super important to understand that dukkha is not some sort of cosmic punishment, and it isn't just the necessary price of being alive. Suffering simply comes from a misunderstanding of how life actually works. When we suffer, we incorrectly think that our internal lamp is broken. We think we're fundamentally flawed. But the truth? The lamp is perfectly fine. It's just that the glass filter around it is dirty.
So, picture an old-fashioned oil lamp. You've got this beautiful, bright flame burning inside a glass chimney. But over the years, the glass becomes completely smudged with accumulated soot. Now, obviously, less light reaches the room. And what do? We look at the dim room and we blame the flame. We think the light is dying out. But the light hasn't diminished at all. It is burning as brightly as it ever was. It's simply occluded by the soot.
And this brilliantly illustrates a core teaching from Chapter 16 of the Lotus Sutra, which explains the persistent, undying quality of this inner light, or Buddhahood. The sutra says, both I am extinguished and that I am not. Basically, the lamp and the light aren't separate. Practice, whether that's mindfulness or meditation, isn't about throwing away your broken lamp and trying to buy a newer, brighter one. It's simply the act of taking a cloth and loosening the grime to allow what is perfectly and already present to fully shine through. Okay, moving on to Section 3, Light in the Hell Realm. Let's explore how this concept applies when we are feeling our absolute worst.
So, the Lotus Sutra offers a profoundly useful teaching called Jikkai Gogu. This translates to the mutual possession of the 10 realms. Now, these 10 realms aren't distant cosmological planets or, places you go after you die. They are states of being that you and I experience every single day. They range from the 6 lower states, like hell, hunger, and anger, all the way up to the 4 wisdom states, including learning and Buddhahood. Historically, some folks have viewed these 10 realms as a hierarchy, like a ladder you have to painfully climb to escape your suffering and finally reach peace at the top. But the concept of mutual possession totally shatters that. It tells us that every single world completely contains every other world, with absolutely nothing left out. The sutra actually says, if there are living beings in other lands, I will teach the unexcelled Dharma.
Traditional readings used to treat these other lands almost like a science fiction story about alien planets. Actually, scratch that. It's more like they thought of them as totally separate dimensions. But practically speaking, these other lands are just the different realms we experience in our daily lives. This means that even in your most contracted, suffering hell realm, the pure light of Buddhahood is already present and shining. The teaching hasn't been withheld from you just because you're having a terrible day. If you are sincere and simply take a moment to clean the glass, the light is right there, literally in the middle of your pain.
This leads us to Section 4, the physician's ultimate cure. So how do we actively put this all into practice? Let's look at the Buddha's approach over his lifetime of teaching.
Over his 45 years of teaching, the Buddha essentially acted as a great physician. His very first sermon, The Four Noble Truths, is basically a medical chart. Step 1, he diagnoses the illness. Suffering is very real. Step 2, he identifies the cause. Step 3, he offers the prognosis. Healing is entirely possible. And finally, Step 4, he prescribes the treatment, the path of practice.
And at the very end of his life, we get the other bookend of his teachings, the Lotus Sutra. In it, there's this really powerful parable about a skilled physician whose children have accidentally poisoned themselves. But they refuse to take the cure he made for them. He actually has to leave and pretend he died just to shake them up enough to take the medicine. The profound takeaway here is that they recover the very moment they take it, because the medicine had been perfectly available in their hands the entire time. What was missing wasn't the cure at all, it was just their willingness to take it.
So you might logically be wondering, if this eternal light has no beginning or end, and if the ultimate medicine is already perfectly sitting right there in our hands, why do we need to do anything? Right? Why meditate? Why chant? Why practice mindfulness at all?
Which brings us nicely to Section 5, cleaning your glass daily. The answer to that question brings us right back to the everyday reality of being human.
You see, we aren't practicing to create the light. We are practicing gentle, upright engagement so the light can actually reach the room. Every time you sit down to practice, it's like passing a soft cloth over that smudged glass. And you can literally feel this. Have you ever stepped away from a terribly difficult conversation and felt your shoulders physically drop half an inch? Or sat quietly with your coffee and realized a pressure you'd carried all week had just vanished? Or noticed the mental static quieting down during a focused task? Those aren't random flukes. That is the glass chimney clearing. That is the relief itself, happening in real time. But the soot always comes back, right? Because, well, life keeps happening. At the very end of his life, the Buddha gave one final reminder. All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence. This mental hygiene, it's never finished. And here's the absolutely crucial part to remember. The fact that the soot constantly returns isn't a failure on your part. It is simply the nature of the path. You didn't fail at meditating just because you got stressed out again on Tuesday. You just need to strive on and wipe the glass again.
Ultimately, this mental hygiene isn't just another exhausting self-improvement project. It's simply how we tend to our minds and bodies, treating ourselves with the love and kindness we deserve. Your inner pure land isn't some distant destination you earn after you die. It's right here in this exact moment, available to give you strength and solace. So take a breath. The light is already there. All you have to do today is clean your lamp. So the only question left is, once you wipe away the soot, what will you use your light to illuminate?